Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We are running a live stream simultaneously on YouTube and TikTok. The TikTok friends are usually very, very quiet, and they never pose a question. And later on, when I'm done, the system shows me there was like 2 questions, which I never saw them. So if you really want me to see your questions, maybe somehow, I don't know, put a bunch of stars and then the question, so I know this line has a question. Because if it's so small, it's hard to see you guys. All right, so we have Stuart Stew says, hi, Miran. Stuart, male 36, Greece. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it when you guys let me know your age, gender, and where you're tuning in from. Like Stuart just says, M36 Greece, male, 36 years old, and from Greece. I appreciate that very much. So if my TikTok friends would also do that, I'd be grateful. So at least we know how far we're reaching and who and what age I'm talking to. So address you properly and know a little bit about you. Wolfie is here. And Cess. And we have Honey Bunny. All right. Thank you for that. Amrit Melee. I'm sorry if I butcher your names. And Anderson. Luis is here. James. And the rest of you guys. And thank you very much for joining. Remember, we'll be talking about breakups and how to regain your balance and the challenges you meet or you could meet after breakup and your mindset and so on. And we also talk about OCD subsets, intrusive thoughts, HOCD, and repetitive thoughts. And we talk about the components of the brain involved in that. So in these 2 topics, you're welcome to throw in your questions. As you know, on YouTube, we have over 3,000 videos. 1,000 of it is on HOCD and OCD combined. And about 3,000, 2,500 is about breakups and so on. I have a site, mindthatseekstruth.com, mindthatseekstruth.com. And if you wish to talk to me for your concerns, you can go in there, make an appointment, and we'll be talking to you one-on-one on Teams, which used to be the old Skype, on real time, interactively and we'll discuss what's concerning you. There is also the same site, Mind That Seeks Truth, has 4 other names, which is, if it's easier for you to remember, is called HOCD.world, breakups.world, breakups with an S, OCD-HOCD.com, and HOCD.ca. Any of these are the same as mindthatseekstruth.com. Depends on which one is easier for you to remember. I'm going to put all these 4 names on YouTube. There we go. HOCD.world. Oops, it came out weird. HOCD.world and breakups.world and OCD-HOCD.ca. Let me just redo it, see how that works out. That's better. Just separated them all. All right. And thank you for liking the live, Honey Bunny. That's a name that rhymes. That's a cool name, screen name. And do we have any questions? Guys, I can hardly see any or, distinguish that there's a question on TikTok because the writings are so small. So do give me a heads up, like, I don't know, put a bunch of stars, and then the next line, put your question in so it catches my attention. I won't miss it. So far, we have no questions on TikTok, so we go to YouTube and see if anybody has a question there. All right. Stuart says, I watched a video of Stephen Phillipson. He talked about 2 OCD spikes who play with us left, right. How you understand it? I don't understand your sentence. That's what my problem is. So maybe you can explain what you understood of it, or what the topic was. And the video of Dr. Phillipson is very self-explanatory and probably most definitely is explained in detail very clearly. So I'm sure you would understand it by watching it again. However, if there is maybe another way of dissecting it, I'd be more than happy to do that. But either I have to watch and see what it was, or you can explain it to me, what part or what is it that you have a question on. And he says, and another is how to practice thought diffusion to get relaxed. I'm not quite sure if I understand what you mean by thought diffusion. If you would mind to elaborate on the use of that word in this context, I'd appreciate it. I can tell you what I understand of your question is, when you say diffusion, you probably mean, or trying to say, if I'm not mistaken, how not to pay attention to it, how not to be cornered by it, how not to have to deal with it, how to diffuse the effect of the thought. There are a bunch of things you can do. First, let me know if I've understood you correctly. Yeah, if I'm on the same page as you are. Then I'll start. In the meantime, I check TikTok. Well, I haven't heard back from you, but anyhow, I'll start. There is pretty much no way you can stop all thoughts. Thoughts are like heartbeat. But the problem is that when you pay attention to thoughts, brain gets energy from that attention. And that makes the brain to be wired to think or conditioned to think that you want it to come up with useless thoughts or occupying thoughts. Because the more you pay attention to something, if that something is sentient, that something thinks that you are responding to its behavior. For example, if you are passing by in the street and there's a crazy person on the corner of the street, and as you pass by and you've never met this person, he says something. Well, naturally, being a polite person, you think he's talking to you and he's saying something. You try to understand it. And when you understand, if it does make sense or doesn't make sense, you make a comment. That creates an atmosphere for the person to continue because you have already reciprocated on that communication. Now, if you find out that the person is cussing at you or swearing at you or talking nonsense or gibberish, the first time after you answered or responded, you figure out what it is. And the next time you pass by, if you continue responding, then the crazy person, every time you pass by, will say something, either cuss at you or do whatever it is, interacts with you because he feels that what he did caused you to react, and that should be an open communication way to him. So what are you going to do? After a while, you say, well, this is not nice. I don't want to be subjected to these nonsense when I pass by. So the moment you stop responding or paying attention to that crazy person who's saying things, pretty soon that crazy person will not get any energy back, feedback, and will stop talking to you. So when you show up, no longer is going to say something to you because he has now been conditioned that when he says something, you just move on. So he's not going to waste his energy. No matter what condition people are, they don't want to spend their energy and not get anything. Brain is the same. When you pay attention to a thought, the brain gets conditioned that this is what you require, or this is what and how it can get your attention. And brain wants to replace you. One of the most important things for you in order to bring what you want to fruition is to realize that you're not the brain. Brain is not you. There are pretty much two entities that you're carrying with you. One is you, and we'll talk about what that is, and one is the brain. The reason I say that brain is not you is because it's very apparent. For millions of years, we existed. And all that time, we lived like an animal, instinctive. Everything was instinctive. You would run, you would hunt, you would eat, you would sleep, you would have sex. There was no thinking ability and there was no speaking ability. Everything was instinctive. So therefore, there was no ambiguity. However, 40,000 years ago, the brain that used to be stem brain ended up developing in the way that we are using it now, which means you never had this brain until 40,000 years ago, which means there was a you and the brain was added to you. And what's added to you, that doesn't mean it's you. That means that you are different than what is added to you. You're the foundation. You're the entity. Let's say you had, I don't know, 3 fingers, and a million years later, you had 4. But there was a 3 finger first. So there was a you for millions of years. The brain was added to you. The brain is not you. You're not the brain. Brain wants to be you. So tries to get your attention and occupy your mind by uttering things so you will recognize its existence. So the first thing you want to do, you want to realize that the brain is not you. You are the one who is actually watching what the brain does. Because if the brain is you, then who is watching what brain says or does? Obviously, you're watching the thought that the brain creates. So that means you're outside of the brain. You're separate from brain. You're not the brain. So once you realize that you're not the brain, brain is not you, then you realize that what the brain utters is not really that important. It becomes important when you pay attention to it. It becomes important when you realize it's of use to you. Then you use the brain as an apparatus, a tool, to do something with it, figure out things, learn things, and so on and so forth. So that's the first thing you want to do in order to understand that the thoughts that the brain creates are not end all be all, or they're not gospel. They're pretty much residuals of the activity of the brain, and every machine has in residues. And if you have an engine, its residues are the exhaust that it comes out of the engine. And if you have a brain, the residues are the thoughts that don't make sense, but these are the residues that the brain has been working all day long, and also comes up with all kinds of other thoughts that has been in the inventory of the consciousness, but it's not relevant to you. Number 2, in order to bring what you want to fruition, is to use Dr. Schwartz's 4-step. Most of the thoughts that are created are useless and meaningless. There were 80, 90,000 thoughts a day are created. Most of them you're oblivious to it. You're not paying attention to it. So when thought shows up, you simply do what Dr. Schwartz says. You relabel it. If it's constantly repeating itself, you relabel it, you reframe it. Then once you call it for what it is, a useless thought, intrusive thought, then you refocus. Number 3, refocus. Refocus on something so simple like drinking your cocoa or tea or whatever it is they do. Listen to music or take a walk or look at the scenery. Something simple but positive. So refocus leaves this out without being engaged with it. Once you've recognized what it is, relabeled it, and then reframed it, and then now refocus, and then your brain automatically revalues. And after a while, this will happen automatically in a jiffy. So the intrusive thoughts that show up, the repetitive thoughts that show up, they simply automatically are dealt with you without you going through the 4 steps. Just automatically you recognize and see it, refocus, and you go on. And why is it so important for you to not pay attention to thoughts? Because many of the useless thoughts are negative. And you ruminate on thoughts, you go into the memory and look and find things that was not favorable, and the outcome was not favorable in your life, and you find them and you try to fix them. Because the brain doesn't understand the difference between virtual world and actual world, virtuality and actuality. And since you didn't get the good results you want in the actual life, and the brain cannot tell the difference between virtuality and actuality, you go back into the memory, you try to fix it there by debating it, thinking about it, talking about things that, is gone, talking about things, and the people who are not even there. You're trying to fix something because you were done wrong to. And in that way, you get certain dopamine, a certain satisfaction that you fixed something. But since there is no physical evidence for this fixing, every time you come up to that subject, you go back again, you try to redo the whole thing. That's why it keeps continuing. So, and the reason that you want to fix this is because you want to turn things into a favorable one and get justice, because most of us don't get justice in the actuality of the world. But one of the most important thing is that a negative thought has a negative charge, negative energy. Negative energy brings about negative resonance. Negative resonance brings about low resonation, which is vibration. Low vibration brings low outcome, low opportunities in the universe, in the nature. So you definitely want to change that negative thought. Instead of stopping it, switch it to something positive. So you'll have a positive energy, positive resonance, and positive vibration. Then you'll have a better reaction, interaction with the world as you go. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, how you get what you're trying to get. Let's see. All right. Then I was actually addressing it properly. All right. So I hope that will answer your question a bit. Let's see. All right. Send finger heart, honey bunny. Well, that's a questionable favor, because the finger part I'm not really so crazy about, but the heart part seems very positive. So I wonder what finger heart is. Are you sure you want to send it positive? Or where's the finger come from? Anyhow, thank you. I appreciate that. And I don't have any questions here. If there is a question here, guys, bring my attention to it, because I really can't get it. All right, let's see what we have. Anything in YouTube? No, we don't. So we have 41 hearts. Well, thank you very much. Really kind of you. I wish I could see your questions, Scott. I bet you there is some that I'm missing, but I don't see it here to answer anything. If you have a question here, just rewrite it, because I'm looking at the end of this thing. Like, I can see anyone who writes a question, I see it as the last message, so it'll come together. But I don't see anything here. Well, anyhow. On my YouTube channel, there is a complete explanation of Dr. Schwartz's 4-step in the form of video. And if there is anyone who wanted to talk to me on my site, I will always ask them if they like the text or script of that explanation, and I can send a copy to them as we're talking. And remember, guys, soon I'll have my both apps, one about breakup and one about OCD and HOCD, loaded up on Google. In fact, as we're talking, the OCD, HOCD is being tested by closed test to see the whole app runs properly. And then we'll load it on Apple once we got the approval of the Google part and we know that everything is hunky-dory. And the app is very self-explanatory. There's an introductory video that tells you how the app works, and it's 24/7 available to you, much lesser cost than you would have to endure to talk to me one-on-one on Teams or Skype. And it's got lots of information and probably going to meet your requirements, which most of you wanted right then and there. So it'll save you time. You don't have to send me a message first and make a registration on my site, and then we coordinate the time depending on which time zone you are, and it work out very easy. And still, if you want to talk to me, by all means, you can go on my site, mind@6truth.com, or any of the four that I mentioned, OCD World, or breakups.world, OCD-HOCD.com, or HOCD.ca. Either one of them will get you to mind@6truth.com, and you can make an appointment. We'll discuss what's concerning you one-on-one on the old Skype, which is now called Teams. My YouTube friends don't have any questions. I don't see any here. Grace is here. Thank you for being here. And thank everyone who's liked the live. I wish I could see your questions if there is any. If I don't, forgive me, because it's hard to see it here unless you rewrite it, and I can see it as the last message, which is easy to find. All right. There are more people on YouTube. Maybe there'll be new questions and we'll address it. Don't tell me all the TikTok friends don't have any questions on breakups, have no questions on OCD. None of them have OCD or any subset of OCD. So don't be a listener, participate. Anyhow, I've been here 30 minutes. If I don't have any questions with the next 5 minutes, then I can mosey on and make another cocoa for myself and watch a movie or something. And Alexander Orid is here. Hello, Alexander. Says, hello, Mehran. Good to see you stopping by. We have a not so busy night here. I just thought I'll just say hello and have a short conversation. On my YouTube screen, breakups.world is actually printed to remind you that instead of remembering mind that seeks truth.com, the long version of the site name, you can simply get there by shorter name, breakups.world. Yeah, my TikTok friends are just observers, which is fine. So I'll have a sip of my cocoa until you guys get your acts together. Send me a question. If not, then we'll just say good night. I don't know what happened to the distribution of my live on YouTube. We used to have lots of people on the live streams, but maybe because I don't do live streams that much anymore, somehow the algorithm doesn't recognize it. Mhm. Alexander says, I have what? I have seen a video of Dr. Schwartz, but I don't understand it all. Yeah, well, sometimes the experts know exactly what they're talking about, but when they want to deliver it somehow, because they are very knowledgeable about what they want to say, they think maybe everybody else also gets it without more explanation. So for that reason, you can search 4 steps, just 4 steps on my search engine on my channel, not YouTube's channel, not search engine of YouTube. Go on my channel, then the search engine of my channel, and then put in 4 steps, and you have a long video dissecting it and explaining it further and further, and that could be helpful. And Alexander says, can you explain, please, in simple ways, how a mental habit is embedded in us and runs our attention, how to destroy this false habit, or how to stop fueling this parasite? All right. In order to understand why is it that you do something without really wanting to do it, I guess that's your question. We need to look at Dr. Anne Grable's from MIT, her work on, who pioneered the topic of cluster of movements, cluster of actions to the brain is one action. In other words, if you, let's say, go to a man who just came out of the cigarette store and say, sir, did you realize that you went in there, you asked for a cigarette, you paid for it, you opened the cellophane, the wrapper, you tore up the package, you took one cigarette, put it on your lips, and put a lighter 2 inches away from your face, fire. He says, no, I just know that I'm smoking. All those movements and actions to his brain is only one. And the way he gets into a habit of doing it without even noticing any of it, like any other action, any other thing that is habit oriented, the things that we do is not necessarily a habit at the beginning. We all know that. There is a process to become habit. So let's talk about it. In midbrain basal ganglia, there is a place called the striatum, among other things. In the striatum, there are 3 centers, among other things. One is a goal-finding center. That is where you, let's say you have an obsession, or you have something you want to do, and then you have a compulsion for it. You go after it to bring it to fruition, to accomplish it. That's the goal-finding center. Let's say I call it goal-finding center and explain it in the OCD world in the way of the step of the obsession and compulsion. So that's the center that every time you think, for example, your hands are dirty, even though they're not, but you have the OCD, you think it's dirty, the compulsion for it will go to wash your hands. So goal finding, you're finding your goal, which is washing your hands. And every time that you do that, you automatically are stimulating the second center of the 3 center, which is the reward center. The reward center is actually the dopamine center. So every time that you feel like your hands are dirty, obsession, you go and try to find water and soap and clean it, and that's the compulsion. And when you do this action of washing, the compulsion is finished, you feel relieved. You say, I'm clean now. That is a signal of the dopamine from the second center, reward center, has been secreted. Now, dopamine is addictive. So you do that a couple of hundred times, the obsession and compulsion, and every time you get a shot of dopamine, you get addicted to the dopamine, and no longer you're doing the compulsion, washing hands, because of the obsession only, that I need to wash my hands because it's dirty. You're doing it to get the dopamine, because now you're addicted to the dopamine. Now, every time you've done the compulsion, on top of the fact that you were stimulating this circle of rewards, the dopamine center, you've also unknowingly been stimulating the habit center. So 1,000 times more you do that, or how many 100 times more you do that, obsession, compulsion, goal is reached, you get reward, second center, the dopamine, and then you're also stimulating the habit center. Now, a few hundred times you do that, no longer you're doing it for the obsession. You're not doing the compulsion for the obsession. You're not even doing it for the reward, for the dopamine. You're doing it because you have it. You don't even realize why you're doing it. You're doing it because you've been conditioned to do it. Before you had reasons, several different reasons. Now you don't have a reason. It's just your habit. That's how everything that you do, it becomes a habit since you've been constantly doing it. Thinking, if you keep thinking about it, you become addicted to get that thinking done. And every time you accomplish that venue of thinking, that process of thinking, and you get certain satisfaction, even though it's just mental, no actual work has been done, you get dopamine. If it's a positive thing, you get dopamine. And if it's a negative rumination, you're still getting some satisfaction after having completed the debate internally. And that way you get certain kind of a dopamine because you completed something. Either way, it's going to become your habit. And when it's your habit, you don't even recognize why you're doing it. So I hope that is what you've been talking about. That's how it gets embedded. The habit is created. Otherwise, you're not necessarily getting the habit by intending it. For example, if you play guitar a lot or piano a lot or play soccer all the time, you gain the good habit of playing good soccer or playing good piano and so on intentionally, because then synaptic neurons are created between the two ends of the synaptic neurons. The bridges are created, and these bridges will make you better at playing piano the more you play, or soccer playing, or guitar, or whatever it is. But rumination and the thoughts and negative thoughts and so on, the habit is not intentional, but it is part of the process of becomes a habit because you need to do the compulsion. For some reason, you need to do the thinking. And for some reason, you need to constantly do it because there is no physical evidence. So every time you think about it, you don't see evidence that you already did accomplish this compulsion. So you redo the debate. So it's constantly doing, and that stimulates the reward center, dopamine center, and the habit center, and so on. So I hope that is the answer you're looking for. Mm-hmm. TJ joined. Thank you, TJ. H joined. Thank you for that. My goodness, TikTok friends, so many of them here. No questions whatsoever. Don't tell me later on I'll find a question somewhere, but I can't see it here. So if you have a question, write it again, because I am looking at the last message. And if you write it now, I'll see it. And Caleb, welcome. Carmena June. That sounds like a Persian word. All right. Well, for the life of me, I can't see a question. I don't know. where it shows up. And later on, the system tells you, I had a few questions. I never saw them. Most of these things that TikTok is showing me, I don't even know how to operate them. It says allow fans to patch part of your live to their system. I said, okay, but I don't know how to do it. And whatever else is here. Invite so-and-so to co-host. Why? Why would I invite someone to co-host when I don't know what their expertise are and if they know what I'm talking about to co-host? I don't understand why these invitations are constantly here. And no question. Okay, guys, I don't see any questions here, and I think we've done whatever we could, the 43 minutes in. So it's time for me to say I love you all. Thank you very much for being here, giving me the opportunity to share a thing or two with you. I look forward to our next live stream. In the meantime, be good to yourself and to the others. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.